Let me tell you about a trap that a lot of smart people fall into. It's the trap of becoming a stupid intellectual. The intellect that goes beyond what the senses inform us of in experience is what we call high intellect. It is contrasted with what we call common intellect, which deals with ordinary experience in concrete rather than abstract terms. But high intellect does not replace common intellect. Common intellect always proceeds according to rules it is not consciously aware of. However, this does not mean that it is undisciplined. It simply applies these rules to concrete cases without being ready to articulate them in abstract terms. Some occupations involve common intellect only, and that is perfectly fine. Here's the critical problem. When people push intellectualism too far, they actually become absurd. In other words, unfit to make basic judgments about real situations. A high intellect that is not grafted onto the stem of a sound common intellect simply becomes ridiculous. And the reason this happens is that the difference between high and common intellect is not in degree, but in kind. Some people have thought the difference is just a matter of depth, but that gives you no clear boundary where one stops and the other begins. When you lose sight of the fact that they are distinct in kind, things go wrong fast. Think about taste, for example. Intellectual taste is actually false taste. It's spoiled taste. Fine taste requires no intellectuality at all. What is beautiful is supposed to please everyone, precisely because judgments of beauty are grounded in experience and made by common intellect. The same goes for creative writing, where common intellect is enough. Knowledge from experience has more life and more intuition to it than knowledge built from abstract concepts. In fact, knowledge arises only with the light of empirical cognition. When you get too abstract, you lose the very thing that makes knowledge real. There are areas where common intellect is not needed to make breakthroughs. Examples include history and many mathematical subfields. But to make breakthroughs in philosophy and other systematic disciplines, such as physics, simply repackaging other people's thoughts is far from sufficient, and genius is necessary. Here, common intellect is also indispensable. Sure, someone can be an intellectual without it, but then he is only a stupid pedant. His stupidity comes from the fact that the practical use of any intellectual knowledge is only possible through a sound common intellect. So here's why you can't skip the basics. Common intellect is not, by nature, any less sound than high intellect. Think about a group of farmers versus a group of intellectuals. The farmers make far fewer errors because they always go by the guiding thread of experience. They make rather few judgments, but those few are correct most of the time. Common intellect is simple, reliable, useful, easy to use, and vivid. It's the intellect that each of us uses in dealing with ordinary experience. It's a small intelligence, but it is usually sound, and its concepts and judgments are very useful. It's, in fact, the average intelligence, like the average height we calculate by measuring everyone and dividing by the count. Here's something people miss. Common intellect doesn't just come before high intellect in development. It should actually supervise high intellect. Languages existed before their grammars were known. Conversations existed before rhetoric. Poems existed before poetics. High intellect always has to be built on top of common intellect, the way art is built on top of nature. They are distinct, but they are not opposites. It is a mistake to oppose them, and it has become fashionable to praise common intellect to the dishonor of high intellect. But that's just as wrong as dismissing common intellect. Now, let's talk about the two broad kinds of knowledge. All knowledge is either experiential or intellectual. Experiential knowledge draws its operational form from common intellect and its content from observational experience. History and geography are purely experiential in this sense. Just to note in passing, knowledge gained from experiments doesn't count as experiential. A person can reflect on experiential knowledge, and through that reflection, arrive at intellectual knowledge. Intellectual knowledge can also draw its content from a combination of common intellect and observation, but its operational form is wholly different. Within any field of study, people find intellectual knowledge more engrossing than experiential knowledge, in the same way that people find more gratification in their ability to get pleasure than in the pleasure itself. Now, understanding a particular instance means subsuming it under a generalization. That's a top-down analytical move, coming from above. Drawing a generalization from particular instances is a bottom-up synthetic move, ascending from below. With experiential knowledge, you ascend from below. With intellectual knowledge, you descend from above. And the logical framework that organizes systematic knowledge is concerned with intellectual knowledge, not merely experiential one. This logical framework is called a methodology or an organon, meaning a system of principles for establishing knowledge. The etymological meaning of organon is tool. Philosophy, in particular, involves more intelligence than simply knowing how to regurgitate existing knowledge. So, what's the right order of developing our intellect? Before inquiring into that, it's important to remember that the whole of nature operates according to rules. Water follows hydraulic rules. Even irregular weather has rules we simply don't know. Animals follow rules they are not conscious of at all. And human beings are no different. We act according to rules, and we use our intellect according to principles and rules, often without being aware of them at all. This happens in three ways. First, because the capacity already lies in our nature. Second, through imitation of examples. And third, through practice. The clearest illustration is the speaking of your mother tongue. You follow rules you've never consciously studied. Our intellect often operates the same way, and it is particularly through practice that we gain the skill to use it without being conscious of its rules.